What's happening, baseball fans? Look, before we get into what might be the most bizarre trade-off scenario I've heard all off-season, you need to hit that subscribe button right now because the rumors flying around are getting wilder by the day. And if you're not plugged in here, you're going to miss the context that actually matters. Turn on those notifications. We're bringing you daily breakdowns of everything happening around this team. And trust me, with winter meetings coming up fast, things are about to get absolutely chaotic. Let's jump in. We've got a new report circulating that honestly has me questioning if people are just throwing names at a wall to see what sticks. The latest speculation involves the Mets potentially losing Pete Alonzo to the Red Sox and the supposed fallback plan being to pivot and sign Alex Bregman. Now, when I first saw this, I had to read it 3 times because it makes absolutely no sense on multiple levels. And we need to break down exactly why this would be one of the strangest moves this front office could possibly make. Let's start with Pete Alonzo. The man has been the cornerstone of this lineup for years. He's a power threat every single time he steps to the plate. Last season, he put up an .871 OPS with an OPS plus of 144. He hit over 25 home runs, drove in runs consistently, and was one of the most dangerous right-handed bats in the entire league. And here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. The guy is durable. He plays every day. He's available. You know what you're getting with Pete Alonzo, and what you're getting is elite power production from the first base position. Very few players in baseball can match that. Now, Alex Bregman is a phenomenal player. Nobody's disputing that. He's an elite defender at third base. He gets on base at a high rate. He had a .273 average last year with solid on-base numbers and an .821 OPS. He's a winning player who does all the little things right. But here's where this gets completely absurd as a replacement scenario for losing Alonzo. You're talking about swapping out a power-hitting first baseman who's been healthy and productive for years for a third baseman who's about to turn 32 and has a concerning injury history. How does that make any sense from a roster construction standpoint? Let's think about what losing Alonzo would actually mean. You now have a gaping hole at first base. Who fills that? Mark Vientos slides over? Okay, Vientos is a solid player, but putting him at first base full-time means you're getting significantly worse offensive production from that position. First base is a power position. You need someone there who can drive the ball, who can hit 30 home runs, who can protect the middle of your lineup. Vientos is not that guy, at least not yet. So you'd be downgrading massively at first base while adding Bregman at third, which creates its own set of problems. Because here's the thing nobody's talking about. Brett Baty, remember him? The young third baseman who finally started figuring things out last season. 18 home runs, .254 average, showed real growth and development. The Mets like this kid. They've invested time and resources into his development. He's pre-arbitration, meaning he costs basically nothing for the next several years. And now you're going to sign Alex Bregman to a massive multi-year deal and tell Baty what exactly? That he needs to learn first base? That he's getting traded? That he's a bench player now? That makes zero sense from a development and roster management perspective. You'd be paying huge money to replace a guy who's already on the roster, already contributing, already improving, and doing it all for league minimum. Meanwhile, you'd also be letting Pete Alonso walk, a guy who's been the face of this franchise and one of the most productive power hitters in baseball. The logic here is completely backwards. If you're going to spend big money on a free agent, it should be to add to what you already have, not to shuffle the deck and create new holes while filling old ones. Let's talk about what Bregman would actually bring in this scenario. Yes, he's a better defender than Alonzo, but that's not the comparison that matters. Alonzo isn't playing third base. Bregman would be replacing Batty at third, and Batty's defense is perfectly fine. It's not a weakness. So you're not really upgrading defensively in any meaningful way. Offensively, Bregman gives you high on-base percentage and a different skill set at the top of the order, but you're losing massive power in the middle of the lineup. His OPS last year was .821 compared to Alonzo's .871. You're not getting better offensively. You're just getting different. And different doesn't win you more games when you're giving up elite power production. The Red Sox interest in Alonzo makes perfect sense for them. They need a right-handed power bat. Their lineup is left-handed heavy. Alonzo gives them exactly what they're missing. But for the Mets to let him walk just so they can turn around and sign Bregman, That's not addressing needs. That's just creating chaos for the sake of doing something. And the worst part is, it doesn't even solve the positional issues it creates. You move Vientos to first, which weakens that spot. You block Beatty at third, which hurts his development or forces a trade. You add salary to a position where you already had a cost-controlled answer. None of it adds up. Here's what should actually happen if we're being logical about roster construction. The Mets should bring Pete Alonzo back on a reasonable deal, not 6 or 7 years, but 3 or 4 years at something in the high 20s per year. That keeps your power bat in the lineup, maintains continuity, keeps the fan base happy, and allows Brett Beatty to continue developing at third base where he belongs. If you want to add another impact bat, go get Kyle Tucker or pursue Cody Bellinger. Don't sacrifice Alonso just to bring in a third baseman you don't actually need. The Bregman rumors feel like agents creating leverage or media trying to manufacture storylines because winter meetings are approaching and people need content. But as an actual baseball strategy, letting Alonso walk so you can sign Bregman is nonsensical. It doesn't make the team better. It creates more questions than it answers, and it ignores the obvious internal solutions already on the roster. Marcus Semien at second, Francisco Lindor at short, Brett Beatty at third. That's a solid left side of the infield. You don't need to blow it up for Alex Bregman. Now, look, if the Mets lose Alonso to the Red Sox or someone else because negotiations completely break down, then yeah, you have to pivot and find solutions. But Bregman shouldn't be the answer. At that point, you're looking at someone like Christian Walker on a shorter deal, or you're giving Mark Vientos a full-time shot and going big on an outfielder like Tucker. You don't solve losing your first baseman by signing a third baseman and playing musical chairs with your entire infield. That's how you end up with a worse roster despite spending more money. The bottom line here is that this report feels like speculation for the sake of speculation. The actual baseball logic doesn't support it. The Mets have a clear path forward with Pete Alonso and Brett Beatty forming the corners of the infield for the next several years. Deviating from that plan to chase Alex Bregman creates problems without providing commensurate solutions. And any front office worth its salt should recognize that immediately. So unless there's some information we're not privy to, some behind-the-scenes tension or injury concern that would change the entire calculation, this rumor should be dismissed as noise. Here's what I want from you. Drop a comment right now telling me if you think the Mets should even consider this scenario. Would you be okay with losing Pete Alonso if it meant signing Alex Bregman, or does that sound as backwards to you as it does to me? Let's get a real conversation going because the hot stove is heating up and we need to separate legitimate possibilities from manufactured drama. Hit that like button if you're getting value from these breakdowns. And seriously, if you're not subscribed, do it right now. Winter meetings are days away, and the moves are going to start coming fast. You need to be here for all of it. Until next time, let's see how this plays out.